Good morning, everyone. This is Trackman 44. Well, it's going to get cold here pretty quick, so what I got to do is I got to give me some kind of a temporary heating system in here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to investigate what I drug up out of the woods and see what we can do to make it produce a little bit of heat with little or no expense, obviously, because, you know, it's just kind of what we do around here. So yeah, hang around a little bit and I'm going to bring that thing inside. You know how it is with my videos. I got to tell you a little story. My nephew was working in St. Louis, and I think one of his co-workers or one of his co-workers knew had this in a house that actually burned down. I don't know that this contributed to the house fire, and it might have just been a shed fire. I don't really remember, but that's been 15 or 20 years ago or so. And my brother had this setting up in his woods until about 2009. And one day he asked me if I wanted to haul that down here. Maybe I could use it somewhere or sometime. I said, heck yeah, man. So we loaded up and I brought it down here. So it's been sitting down in my woods for 11 years. Of course, I had it covered all up and everything. But it's a little bit rusty. Of course, that's all superficial. Like Joe Lesage and Dave at RCF Polar Express, it's that patina, you know. We like to maintain that patina. But I do have to get a little rust out of the hinges, you know. I'll deal with that. But at any rate, what this is essentially, it's a fire chief. I think it's made, I'm not sure, but I thought at one time they were made locally here in St. Louis, but I don't really know. I'd have to double check that. It's really a good furnace. Fire brick line, it's got a set of lifetime warranty, grates and everything in it, you know. And this one here's life just about ended, you know what I mean? But at any rate, here's what we're going to do. It suffered some damage. You can see the throat on what used to be the combustion air fan housing. That's rusted plumb off, or possibly was damaged in the extreme heat of the fire. And, you know, it probably broke the fan off when something fell on it. Doorknobs are kind of, you know, missing everything. Those used to be black plastic as well as this. This is a secondary combustion, or a secondary combustion chamber damper, or bypass damper. Here's your ash clean out door down here, and it's got a tray that slides out of it. And inside there's are the grates. And if you look over here, you see a great big old hole in the bottom. That's probably, well, it was probably deteriorating, you know, whenever I brought it home. But I didn't have that part covered, so it rusted all the way out. It's no big deal because we'll put a new bottom in that. That's just going to be quick and simple, not a problem at all. But if you look at the design on this, it's got this nice brake bent 90 on it. That's 3/16 steel, and you can see 3/16 angle iron around the perimeter. Now these had a red sheet that went over the top of this right here, and that created an air plenum between this right here and the 3 inches into the heat exchanger, and it does that on the two sides. And then up on the very top, what they had formed is they had formed in a nice rectangle top with a 12-inch round opening in it. And that was the hot air discharge, you know, for tying into your ductwork. So I'm going to toy with the idea of kind of putting some sheet metal on that and going ahead and using it a little bit better. Originally, I was thinking about just using it as a freestanding stove, but the more I got to think about it, it'd be quick and simple to go ahead and blow some air across it. And here, obviously, is the supply air blower that used to sit there, housed by, right here where I'm kneeling, a large return air compartment that actually had a filter rack built into the top of it. And it's also a 6-inch flue, which incidentally happens to be the size of flue that I put in. So at any rate, we know what our job is, and all we gotta do is go do it. You know how kids are, you know, they're quite perceptive, you know. One time my son was about 14, 15 years old or so, you know, and we was looking at a dead motorcycle or something like that, or maybe one of these old rusty pieces of junk tractors laying around out here. We were looking at one of those, you know, to kind of haul off for little nothing, and I asked the son what he thought, and he said, well, it's got potential. It sure ain't got nothing else. That pretty much, that statement pertains to this guy right here. Yeah, I sprayed this down with a little bit of penetrating oil, sprayed the hinges, and sprayed this guy right here, popped it open. First time it's been open in a long time. Well, that's a good sign. There's the ashtray that actually goes in there. It's full of ashes and everything. So I'm going to have to clean those out before I get in there. I feel like a mouse or a rat's nest or something in there. I have to get me a flashlight and shine in there and take a look-see. Oh, here's the shaker grate right here. I don't have the crank that goes with it, but that's a tapered square, so I have to come up with some way to twist that back and forth. And of course, this is your bypass damper up here. I have to. Just got a pleasant surprise. I shine my flashlight down the inside there. Of course, there's a big old mouse nest in there. I should leave that in there to make the first fire out of it. But right here amongst that mouse nest is my grate shaker. First things first, we're going to do a little body work on the bottom. What I say the other day, doesn't matter what a project starts out looking like, it's what it ends up looking like that's important. Well, you got the idea. I'm going to go get the grinder and kind of finish that up. I got a little stubborn part right there in the front. Oh, hey, I see I'm leaking a little bit. Hey, I got plenty more. What do adults have, like 8 pints of blood? What the heck, that's only a drop or 2. We won the battle. Now that we got all that stuff stripped out of there, take a look and I'll show you how we're going to convert this back into a forced air furnace. Obviously you can see back here where my hand's sticking through, there's roughly a 10 by 10 inch hole back here where the discharge of a fan or a blower, squirrel cage, is going to be blowing into there. We're going to have to put a bottom back in, and we have to put a side on this side and on the other side. And what that does, that creates a plenum around the heat exchanger. The blower is going to blow into this. This is a V-shaped heat exchanger, or it's kind of a squared off V-shaped design on the heat exchanger, which will divide the airflow up the 2 sides, and then it'll pass between the heat exchanger and the sheet metal that we're going to be adding here, transferring heat from, of course, the heat exchanger to the air, and it'll go up to the top into what we'll have to build as a plenum. And there will be a fan switch or a fan control that'll automatically turn the blower on and off based on the temperature settings. And then it's got a secondary heat exchanger. Some people kind of argue about that because they say, some people claim that this particular one doesn't have a secondary heat exchanger, it's got a secondary burn chamber. The secondary burn is the difference that you get between just burning your fuel, your wood, and having it going right out the chimney, expecting it to get hot enough to extract a good percentage of heat out of it, and burning reasonably efficient. But it doesn't necessarily do that unless you get your fire to a degree where it operates under a secondary burn. So what you do, you've got a bypass damper that will slide forward and open that secondary, or close off that secondary heat exchanger, and allow the now increasing temperature, the new fire, to attain temperature a lot faster by directly going up the chimney, creating a lot of draft and getting your fire to burn, much, much better. Once you get your temperature up to the desired level, you slide your damper forward, which closes off that direct bypass and then forces that heat to travel up the front and enter that secondary burn chamber and extract more heat as it burns to a higher temperature up in that secondary heat exchanger. Again, we're kind of arguing semantics. I like to refer to it as a secondary heat exchanger, even though technically it is, some people can argue that it's not. Typically a secondary heat exchanger would be another compartment that goes off of the back end where it actually enters in up high, and then it's a narrower heat exchanger, 4 or 5 inches thick, and it will get all nice and hot in here, and it'll be encompassed in the plenum, and then the extra heat is extracted off of that secondary heat exchanger before it passes out the lower exit level and up the chimney. So you extract a little more heat from the burned flue gases, before it goes up the chimney. It's important to get any wood-fired appliance to that secondary burn temperature to minimize the development of creosote in your chimney. You can also minimize that by increasing the combustion air and decreasing the percentage of moisture in your wood. But what happens, people think that's wasteful. because it seems like you're putting so much heat up the chimney. But you know, you can waste a little bit of heat and justify it by the fact that you're not building creosote, you know, in that respect. Now we got to go to the other shop and dig out some scrap metal. So see, that didn't take too long. I just went over and grabbed some scrap sheet metal, and you lay out the dimensions that your finished product needs to be, and added a 1/2 inch all the way around the perimeter for the safety hem, the reinforcing safety hem, 180-degree bend. So we're going to go ahead and fold those. I'll show you that. Cross break them, and we're going to come back over. Probably use a Whitney punch and pre-punch the holes all the way around, and then come back over, clip it into place, and go ahead and assemble it. This is going to be the bottom. First thing I'll go ahead and do is give her a bit of a cross break. Pay no attention to the sawdust. The sides are a little more difficult because they're physically so much larger. There's the side panel. Now we got to do one more. We're going to pre-punch the holes and everything. Used to pre-punch those holes is a Whitney punch. Now this is a Roper Whitney. It's not J.C. Whitney, even though you can buy a similar design in J.C. Whitney catalog for a much cheaper price. I don't know that the longevity is there. This particular one's about 30 years old. I've got one in the other shop that's got to be 60, 70 years old, virtually unchanged, except for the casting is just a little bit different. But they come with about, I think, 9 different sets of punches and dies that are all removable. You thread out the die, and you release the handle here, and then you can pop in a replacement matching punch, and it goes all the way from little bitty to great big. So there we go. Got our whole series of holes. That's the bottom. Now we got to do the same thing on a larger scale to the 2 sides. One of the cool things about using an old piece of junk like that is it ain't going to win no beauty contest no matter what you do. So you can kind of use scrap around the shop. You don't have to use brand new material. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use something here that I bet there ain't too many guys knows what is. You got any idea what this thing is right here? Now we have one fella, his name is Dave from RCAF Polar Express. If anybody has a chance of knowing, Dave is going to know. You use that in conjunction with this guy right here. You stick this onto that right there and depress that. Check this out. So what I'm trying to do is kind of get that up here about right, and we may have to make an adjustment on it, I don't know. Look how strong that little clamp is. That is one heck of a clamp. And we'll use another one over here on this side. Just stick it in your pocket, just move it around, whatever you got to do, whatever position. Stick it right in there and clamp it on. We can go ahead and slip these guys in here and remove this. Now be serious. Does anybody really know what these things are actually designed for and used for besides Dave? I'd be real surprised if Dave doesn't know. Next thing we're going to do is make a plenum top. Then we'll figure out what we got to do to the combustion air opening here. The standard FC like this one here were discontinued, I think, in 2016 because of the EPA's restriction, on wood-fired appliances. They've got a replacement that's almost identical to this, but I think it incorporates a different way of burning, and I think it's also got a catalytic converter, in the smoke pipe to extract more heat from the escaping gases and that kind of thing. I don't really know for certain, but that's what I kind of heard as a scuttlebutt that's kind of come across my field of vision, so to speak. We're going to go ahead and continue on and make us a plenum top. and see what's going to happen here. One of the cool things about using that thicker metal is to get rid of that nice sharp point. You can take your hammer like I just showed, and you can tap that around the corner and tap it down flat, and you can virtually seal up that corner, that tiny opening that was there, and you can actually make it to where it's just dull as can be. There's not a sharp edge on either side, whether it be here or there, or that point sticking straight out at that 45-degree angle away from that corner. So I'm able to do that on all four of them, all the way around the square top of this thing right here. As you can tell, we've got a top, we've got both sides, and we've got a new bottom in it. And it's ready. It's ready to have the blower assembly put on it, and it's just about ready to build a fire once you get a flue pipe attached to it, get an opening cut in the top so that the warm air can be blown out by the blower assembly. I think this is a good point to stop in the process of putting this old damaged wood furnace back into production. I've got to go about the business now of finding a blower assembly that's compatible, and of course combustion air and everything like that. So I think we're going to call this good for right now. You know what? This Tractor Man 44, and I am out of here.